So my Super Bowl prediction was a little off, huh?
I actually was sort of right.
Well,
I was right and wrong, and I'll tell you why. Because I predicted that the Bucks would win, and I think my score was 31-27. I think the Bucks actually got 31 points. Just the Chiefs only scored 3, which I was extremely shocked about.
Chiefs scored 9, but okay.
What do you mean 9?
9. They had 9.
I thought it was like 31-9. When did they score a touchdown?
Did you watch the end of the game?
Oh,
They didn't score a touchdown. It was 3 field goals.
Oh, they were kicking field goals the whole time?
Yeah.
Travis Kelce, was it Tyreek Hill and all of them couldn't score?
Apparently not.
What would you think? What would you say due to that game? Like, was the main cause of the Bucks winning and the Chiefs losing?
The Chiefs O-line.
You really thought it was played a huge effect on it?
Your starting left tackle was out.
Eric Fisher, who had an Achilles tear. Oh, excuse me, rupture. I heard.
Yeah.
Serious stuff. I think he may be out for next year too.
Yeah, I mean that's not a easy injury to return from, at all.
What is the usual time span? 6 months or
for
9?
Achilles?
Yeah.
Well, shit.
I think 9, right?
At minimum, might be even 12. But it depends on where you go and your rehab. Yeah. I mean, obviously,
I also think it depends on the sport itself too. How physical.
I mean,
how physically demanding it is.
Kobe Bryant came back in less than 12. I mean, I could be off. I mean, the amount of
well, here's the thing too.
The amount of research I don't do for these questions is pretty.
Well, that's why we're doing this podcast, just to shoot the SHIT.
I already said it once. You didn't pick it up on it.
Oh, shoot the shit. There you go. That being said, I just feel like for Fisher, I mean, he has to be early 30s. He's a left tackle. He has some weight. He's a 300-pound plus man. The way it's interesting because when I was training some of the NFL guys, Matt Pert being one of them who plays on the Giants as a right to left tackle, he rotates both sides. I was looking at their stances, like offensive linemen, like especially tackles, like their ankles. I'm surprised they don't get surgery by the time their careers are done.
Well, think about how many of them play in like braces and they're wrapped all the way up. Like,
oh my gosh!
It's like again,
but from a longevity standpoint,
their body becomes so dependent on those knee braces, ankle braces, or the tape jobs that the trainers give them. Which I mean, you can go a million different ways with that, I guess. But in a perfect world, you wouldn't want any of that.
No, of course.
But
I think about it. I'm always a type of person to think about like the long-term effects of it, whether or not that that can cause them to get surgery or having some sort of incapabilities of how they walk or something. I don't know. I'm just thinking about it. I mean, I believe like the way it looks like their ankles are completely inverted half the time when they're in like that type of I don't know if it's a 3-point stance or what have you, but whether they're doing like a pass or run play, it's insane to see how their ankles are, and I'm like I'm completely shocked. Now for Fisher too, I believe it was his left Achilles that ruptured, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm not.
Which is a huge one because
sure.
That's his pivoting foot too. So now think about like any type of pass protection that he has to do, and he has to put a lot of weight on that outside foot as he chops, or I think the term is called chopping. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know if he hangs it up or if he tries to come back after this. It's a huge what if type of, I don't know. What do you think?
Again, I mean, it's really dependent on who he's going to be working with. The doctors, the surgery. I'm going to assume the surgery is going to be successful.
Absolutely. I'm
assuming he also already had the surgery.
I heard that like NFL insurance, like when you work for an NFL team, like you have crazy medical insurance.
I'm sure.
Like top
professional athlete, you kind of, I guess, you have to.
Probably. Could you imagine if they like didn't have medical insurance, the amount of bills they would accumulate over time?
Well, yeah, that, and as a team, as a professional organization, who's paying these athletes millions of dollars, you have to provide that athlete with the insurance, because how would it be like you're paying an athlete $1 million or whatever, they get hurt, they get injured, they have no medical insurance. And it's like, but you still have to pay this guy. So it's like you have to provide them that because you're protecting your investment. You're protecting your investment.
But it's crazy. It's like, yeah, you're protecting your like long-term investment. You're good. But at the same time too, it's like how we always talk about it. How it's like an ongoing. What are you fixing my mic right now? Thanks. It's an ongoing thing in the NFL. It's the next man up. As much as like
It's a scary position.
How crazy is that? Like,
but I kind of feel. I mean, obviously, there's not as much money on the line with our job and what we're doing, right? We're not making. It's all relative too. At the end of the day.
Well, it's what you bring in to the table.
Yeah, but my what I'm trying to say is, if we get hurt or injure ourselves, God forbid, you or I tear our ACL, whatever, to the point where we can't like perform, it's the same for us. We can't really coach the same. You know what I mean? Yeah. So if all of a sudden, you know, we're in a boot, we're on crutches for the next couple of months, we can't do our job.
Yeah.
So it's like that's scary, man. Like I can't imagine what it must feel like at that level too.
Well, especially at that level where it's like, I believe that for us, when we get back, we'll still have our jobs. Whereas certain NFL players, like once they're done, like if the next man is up, it's like next man is up. We don't wait for no. And look who decided to join us, 12:07 on the dot, ladies and gentlemen. Coach Joe Sandberg's in the house. Can we get a whoop whoop?
Whoop whoop.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate that. It's okay. Yeah, mic's on and everything. We were just shooting the shit, talking about the Super Bowl. What'd you think? Did you watch it? Or were you taking care of the kids?
Yeah, I watched it. I had spurts where I had to put the kids down, but
yeah,
I thought the Buccaneers played a little more inspired.
I was going to say, being a former athlete yourself, a former high school and college athlete, let's just get a little closer to the mic. You know, does it, I was talking about, it was funny, I was talking about it with Matt Sims, and I was asking him, did you, like, sort of, like, analyze the game at all? Like, break it down, like, in your own head? Now, mind you, Matt played in the NFL and everything. And he was like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Do you, whenever you watch a game, do you ever think, like, man, I wish I was, like, there type of setting, or not really?
You know, I'm not really into football like Matt Sims is. I played it. I loved playing it.
Yeah.
But I was never really an X and O's guy, so I just kind of watch it to enjoy it. And, you know, you think about situations where, you know what, how they should have given the ball to Fournette on the 1 yard line on 4th and 1. But, like, little things like that, yeah, I think of, but I don't analyze it like, you know, someone of his stature, yeah.
For sure. I think that probably makes it more enjoyable to watch the game that way, though, without having to analyze it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, he must watch it, and he's like a scientist. He's picking out defenses and, you know, cover 2, cover 3, all this. I don't get into that. I just try to enjoy it while I can. I have 10 minutes to enjoy it. I enjoy it.
I was going to say, when you play the game, though, were you ever, you just, you know, you did your job type of thing? Or was it like you were like, film this, practice that? Like, you know how some guys are like, they're in it for the long run. And, you know other guys are like, you know, I play the sport, you know, I do my best.
It's funny. I was a point guard in basketball. And as a point guard, you really have to think the game. But as a running back, it's really just understanding your read.
Yeah.
So your read is, you know, you read the D tackle, and if he goes one way, you're cutting off the other way. So that was the biggest difference in coaching football versus basketball. Is I was not an X's and O's guy. You know, I couldn't really get into the, you know, dissecting a defense or dissecting coverages. Whereas basketball, as a point guard, you kind of think like the quarterback, and that was the biggest difference. You know, I wasn't passionate about understanding, you know, cover 3 or Tampa 2 or all this, all these defenses.
It was more or less like, I guess, in the moment, like, obviously you have that passion, but it's not like, you know, you're studying, breaking down film to the team.
Yeah, no.
Like certain guys. Now, you mentioned basketball. First love, second love, is it football or is it basketball?
Growing up, it was always whatever I was playing. You know, hindsight 2020, I probably would have played basketball just because of the rigors that football does to your body and the opportunity to keep playing places. But, you know, I loved them equally growing up. You know, the thing about football that, you know, makes it such a great sport is there's so limited opportunity. So you get those 11, 12 games, and it's, you know, it's a lot of fun to play, and it's, you know, it's great. You know, basketball, you could play for, you know, 40, 50 years in men's leagues and all this. There's always an opportunity to play. Football, there's only a certain amount of opportunity.
Yeah, there's only like a certain, what's it they call it, shelf life or something like that?
Yeah,
something like that. So obviously now you coach it. How many state how many years have you been coaching, and how many state titles have you won so far?
This is my 9th year. We've won 2 sectional titles.
2 sectional titles at Ramapo High School, correct? How's that been? How's the whole, you know, playing the sport? You obviously played very successful in high school. Played a little bit, I think, 1 year in college, like sort of, you know, back and forth with basketball and football. and then been coaching at Bergen, now at Ramapo. How's that whole transition from playing to now coaching it been for you?
It's been a great experience. I mean, to see kids compete and buy into what you teach is very rewarding. You know, obviously it's different than playing, but it's still an outlet. You know, when you take a team like we're supposed to play Bergen Catholic tonight, and talent-wise on paper we should lose by 40 points, but when you get a group of kids to buy in and compete to a higher level, you know, it's pretty rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially I think in your scenario where it's you coach at a public school where it's you really don't choose what players you want, like some parochial schools where you sort of have the whole, you know, I guess recruiting or, you know, scouting process. How is it, like, do you feel that it's even more challenging being in that setting than versus, like, say if you are like a parochial school like Bergen, Bosco, Joe's?
The parochial schools have become kind of like a Division IV college now. You look at it like just a step below college because you have to, you know, it's 12 months a year. You have to find the best players and you have to convince them to go to your school. You know, the glory of my job is I only get to coach what comes to me, you know, and, you know, you take what you get and you try and make the best team that you possibly can. And, you know, we've been pretty fortunate to develop a culture there where kids love to compete. They love to play hard, and, you know, they know they might not be the most talented guy, but if you play hard and you're tough, you have an opportunity to play and win, you know, for us.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's interesting just because I always think about it like when it comes to, like, I guess, you know, you're comparing the public to parochial schools and everything. I'm always wondering whether the pressure is more on the coaches that really don't have, let's just say, quote unquote, the talent like these parochial schools do, or is it more on those coaches that are in the parochial school where, hey, you're given the talent, you know, such as, let's compare to college, like a John Calipari, he has all these, you know, freshmen coming all the time and they're always ranked. Do you think there's more pressure on those type of coaches, or is it pretty much even across the playing field, no matter what?
You know, I think in the bigger schools, yeah, there's definitely pressure to win. And, you know, Don Bosco or Bergen or St. Joe's. In a public school, you pretty much know going in if you're expected to win the game or not, and that puts pressure on you. Like 3 years ago, I think we lost to Demarest by 1 in the sectional final, and that was probably the most pressure I ever felt.
Yeah.
Because I knew we were supposed to win. Whereas when you know you're supposed to win, it's just like, it's a different animal.
No, absolutely. I mean, winning. Let's talk about that a little bit. How competitive are you?
I don't like to lose, and my kids know this, and I've always been like this. I lost games growing up, and I would lock myself in my room. You know, I lost a county championship. I believe it was my junior year in high school, and I drove into New York City the next morning and worked out at 5 a.m. because I was so upset that we lost. And I think that's kind of what today's generation has kind of lost.
That competitive drive, you think?
There's so much.
There's so many other distractions.
There's so many other distractions, and, you know, winning is not as important to them because they could just go home, they can go play another game somewhere else, and, you know. But growing up, you know, that's all I wanted to do.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Obviously, for people that don't know, this is Joe Sandberg with us right now. You had a pretty remarkable career in high school as a two-sport athlete. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Two-sport athlete, basketball and football. I wasn't sure if you... Did you ever play baseball?
I didn't. I grew up playing baseball, but I stopped in high school.
Got it. So basketball and baseball, pretty stellar career at Bergen Catholic. Just talk about your time at Bergen, and then how, as an athlete at that time, is a little different as an athlete today. Like you know, what we kind of talked about, you saying the parochial schools was like a Division IV. Yeah. Was it kind of looked at like that a little bit too when you were there?
I think there was more balance in the public schools, whereas, you know, it wasn't as, you know, okay, I think once they went to this national schedule for football, things really changed.
For sure.
Whereas, you know, the top players are now going to go and they want to play on ESPN. They want to go to California. They want to go to Texas, which is great, but now you're seeing kind of a diluted public schools. I mean, there's still good public school football, don't get me wrong, but, you know, when we played, the public schools could beat the Catholic schools. Yeah. Now it's very rare that you find a public school that's going to beat a Catholic school. And
I don't even think you see really public schools playing parochial schools anymore, to be honest.
I mean,
Not much.
the public school, especially in football, has become such a, it's one of the top leagues in America, just, as far as talent goes. And you could just see the players that are playing, they look like men. They look like they're ready for college football.
For sure. Yeah, and like going back to when you played, like obviously being that two division athlete, did you ever think, hey, it would be nice to go outside, and try to test myself against these other top end, players in the country, whether it be football or basketball?
Yeah, well, the thing about when I grew up, basketball, we played against everybody. I mean, whether it was in high school, we played in big tournaments, or AAU was a little different, and there was a thing called the ABCD camp, which I went to. So, we saw everybody, and LeBron James was my year. He was at camp, and I grew up seeing these guys at tournaments and playing high level against them. Football wise, it was a little different because you didn't have all these showcase events. So you played who was on your schedule. But for instance, we played Teaneck, and that's probably the hardest game I ever got hit playing running back. There was a guy by the name of Tamba Ali playing defensive tackle. He played for the Kansas City Chiefs. And he might be the best player I ever played against, him and Brian Toll. But, that was a public school team, for example. And, there wasn't, the Brick City Lions and all this growing up. You played for your town, you competed in your town league, and then you went to high school. Now it's there's so many opportunities for kids to just go outside and compete against the best.
Yeah. What AAU team did you play for in high school?
I grew up playing for the Gauchos in New York City, and then I switched over my sophomore year of high school to the Players. I played with J.R. Smith. So, he's one of the names, but there were 7 of us on the team. 6 of us went to high-level Division I programs, and I went to play football, obviously.
Do you ever go back and think, maybe I should have tried basketball, or?
You think about it, but I had such a good experience at U Penn. I made a lot of great friends. I played a lot of football, so I really can't complain about that. The biggest toll was just you take a beating.
Now, speaking of taking a beating, obviously us talking, getting to know each other prior to doing this podcast, but you've had your fair share of injuries throughout your career. What would you say was probably the hardest thing, having to deal with those, whether it be having to deal with those injuries, the recovery? Can you get a little closer? Thank you. Or and then on top of that, what would you say would you suggest other athletes going to into their future, whether it be high school or college? What would you suggest to them, just so that they themselves don't end up being crippled?
My injuries were kind of. I had 3 shoulder surgeries, and I tore my meniscus to end my career. The shoulder surgeries and the shoulder injuries, I really didn't know until the off seasons. So I would get back into workouts, and I'd try and bench press, and all of a sudden, I can't lift 90 pounds because I have a torn labrum in my shoulder. The one thing I would tell athletes is, is to kind of balance your workouts. Don't just dedicate 6 months to just pounding heavy weights. Have balance in everything you do, and I think it'll help you in the long run. Injuries happen in sports. There's no doubt about it. You just want to do the most you can to prevent them. I don't know if my shoulder injuries were preventable or not. I don't know if my knee was preventable or not. But as an athlete, you want to do the most you can to, be able to, succeed.
When you were at Bergen, you guys trained here at Parisi?
I trained here. A lot of the training was done at school. Okay. But I trained here in high school.
What would you say the mind state was at that time in high school? Was it hit heavy weights? What was the mind state back then? Not that it was that long ago either. I'm not trying to age you. But
it was long ago. I think speed was just really becoming a big thing. Obviously now speed is huge. And the game is just so fast, and everything you do, it's not about being big and bulky anymore. So that was becoming a real emphasis. they always talk to me about getting stronger and getting bigger because I was so lean because I played 97 basketball games and then I would just go play football.
Yeah.
Change. I don't think it's really changed much as far as the movements. I mean, the movements haven't changed, but when Parisi first opened is when I started. So there was a huge emphasis on just speed and lateral movements. And
who were the coaches back then? You remember at Parisi?
My coach here was Joe DeFranco.
Okay.
So obviously he went on and started his own gym and has been very successful. I've worked with numerous people throughout my career. It just things have come full circle, and now I find myself and my team working out here.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say then throughout your career you were your most quote unquote healthiest, like going into a season or off season training or what have you?
The crazy thing is I never got injured in high school or college. I may have missed one game with a hamstring. College, I didn't miss any games until my senior year. I had surgeries, but I was always able to play. The one thing I couldn't fight through was the meniscus, and I don't even remember hurting it. I just remember going to play Harvard, and it would just lock up on me, and I couldn't play anymore. And that was the end of it. Yeah,
that's crazy. It's interesting to see how you sort of full circle. Your career has become going back to your high school days and college days and everything. Is there any point of it that you miss like if I can go back a little bit, I wish I could have done this differently or gone this route or anything like that? Or you sort of you said everything's gone full circle, you sort of like the path that you've taken?
I think I like the path that I've taken. Obviously, training wise, going into my senior year of college, I wouldn't have bulked up the way I did. I would have stayed kind of at the weight I was at and gotten really great shape.
Yeah.
I put a lot of emphasis on getting bigger going into my senior year, just because I was taking such a pounding, and I was as strong as it's ever been, but I was about 215, 217 when I went to camp, but I don't think my body was able to play at that weight. I pulled my hamstring the first week of the season. I just wish I put more emphasis on conditioning and just that aspect of things. But other than that, there's really nothing I look back and would change. I enjoyed playing both sports, and I wish people still emphasized playing multiple sports. Yeah.
Rather than specializing early on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because what do they say, the burnout method, right?
Yeah.
So you play one sport for your entire career, so you're going to end up sort of hating it at one point in time? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know if a lot of that, comes from parents or coaches now, where they think that, if I spend 6 to 8 years focusing my son on one sport, then it's going to take care of college. Whereas, when I was growing up, there was never, I was never put in a position to miss one sport because of the other. Now it's like crazy. Even coaching, parents will ask me, do you put any pressure on your kids over the summer? I'm like, no, your kid can do whatever he wants. He may get pressure elsewhere, but I hope he does what he wants to do.
Yeah. Does it ever frustrate you a little bit as a basketball coach at Ramapo if other kids can't make it to any of our workouts here or any shoot-arounds or anything because he's involved in another sport?
Early in my career, I got really frustrated because, I was like, man, these kids aren't, dedicated to what we're doing. But then, you think about it, I've had one Division I college basketball in 9 years, and he was 7'1".
Shout out to Neil.
I had a couple D3 players, but other than that, everyone plays other sports. So if I'm going to get bent out of shape for guys missing, but they have an opportunity to play another sport, who am I?
Yeah.
At least they're doing something.
I had Casey Hunt, who was a SEC baseball player and never came to one workout, but he showed up and competed, as hard as he could and took us all the way to Rutgers. So, I can't really get mad at somebody who knows the route he's going to go. I just
Yeah.
appreciate that he plays both sports.
Let's keep it on Ramapo a little bit, and you kind of alluded to it before in terms of you groom your team. They might not be the most talented team on the floor all the time, but you groom them to compete, and like the culture is different. And me working with Ramapo and then some of the pro career schools I work with, I've kind of felt the same way. Being Ramapo tough is just different.
Yeah, that's kind of something we instilled the day one when I got the job. And obviously, you got the coaches here and Coach Rich helped us kind of develop that mentality, whereas, we're not the most talented team, but coming here and developing a mentality, whereas, we're never going to quit, we're never going to back down. Things may get hard, but we've already done some of the hardest things we're going to do. So there's nothing that we haven't seen. And I think it's been very valuable to our program to develop that, because we have won games that we shouldn't have won. We've went places and beat teams that are way more talented we are, but we've developed this culture where, we're just going to show up and we're going to outwork you. And that's a large part of what we do in practice and also what we do here in the off season.
What do you kind of do when, let's say, whether it's preseason, in season, or you're in the playoffs or whatever it is, you see a kid that, he's been pushing all year, but he's starting to kind of get maybe burnt out mentally. His body's fine, but just mentally, just through all the workouts he did here with myself, Coach Rich, and practices, things like that. What would your method kind of be of like bringing that kid back to life, remotivating him to kind of continue through and fight through that, long journey?
That's a good question, because honestly, we haven't had that. We've seen kids get tired. Max Pernetti last year, he got really fatigued at the end of the year. He got sick, but they all have developed by the time they're a senior a foundation where they know that they could push through it. And, at the end of the year, every team is hurt. Every team feels tired. And, if you have a foundation, then you can battle through it. And, obviously as a coach, you have to be smart and you have to, take a step back and practice and not go as hard, or maybe, give them an hour of shooting and, something fun to do just to make things kind of a little different. But, I've never had really a kid just mentally check out at the end of the year. Our kids are so competitive that, once you get to the state tournament and the county tournament, they want to win.
Yeah, just kind of re-ups at that time.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, I think that's awesome. Now, you're a competitor. We kind of talked about that before. Like, you just like to compete. You want to win. You hate losing. Which feels, it's probably an impossible question to answer, but and I'm sure it's different, but which feels better? Winning as a coach, winning as a player?
That's a tough one.
Yeah,
it's a good question.
I don't think there's like a real answer to it.
That's a good question. You as a player, obviously you can control. You play well, your team plays well, and you win. And there's nothing like that. But as a coach, to see guys buy into what you do and succeed and win, it's a great feeling. It's two different things, and I can't really say one is better than the other, because obviously when we won the sectional championship, it was awesome. It was a great feeling, and we did the same thing in high school, and it was an awesome feeling. It's totally different. You're kind of living vicariously through your team.
Yeah.
And whereas as a player, you get to do it yourself.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, does it ever hit you? Because obviously you won counties and I believe states. Correct me if I'm wrong. When you played in high school, and then now coaching it, seeing your growth as a player, being a successful player, and then obviously now being a successful coach at at a public school. Is it sort of wow, damn, I'm pretty good at this?
I don't really think of it like that. We've won a lot, but I've been blessed with a lot of talented kids that played with me and also played for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously I look back and I'm like, wow, it would suck to be on the other end of this a lot of times,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I got some more, I'm sure probably hard, tough, impossible questions to really give a true answer to, but we'll start at Bergen Catholic, we'll start at the high school level. What's your fondest memory on the football field and your fondest memory on the basketball court?
On the football field, obviously, was winning the state title in my junior year versus Del Barton at Rutgers. That was our ultimate goal. The year before that, we were 4-6. Going into that season, I had never lost a football game. So we had 6 straight losses, and that was just like devastating to me. So to come back the next year and win was great. My senior year is probably maybe my second memory of losing the state finals to my best friend at the time, to Don Bosco on our home field to end my career. As far as basketball goes, we had a lot of great moments in basketball. We went to the TOC my junior year. That's probably, and then we won county 3 times.
Who was on that
2 times.
team your junior year?
Sean Banks is the notable name. We had a lot of good players. We had 4 kids go Division I.
Dang.
Miles Orman went to Marist. Adrian Joseph went to Virginia. Dan Gentile went to Colgate. And then Sean went to Memphis. So, I mean, we were really good. And, we went and we played a lot of good games. But obviously going to TOC would probably be the best memory, and losing, we lost to St. Anthony's.
It's a powerhouse in and of itself, too.
It was on St. Anthony's at that time.
St. Anthony's had 3 Division I guards, Elijah Ingram, Donald Copeland, and Dwayne Lee. They went to St. John's, Seton Hall, and St. Joseph's.
Dang.
And then they had a big guy to go to Syracuse. So
They were pretty stacked.
yeah, it was a good experience.
But that level of competition's got to be awesome, just to be a part of that.
So I also think it's good to see, playing that type of level of competition, because you really get to test your own skills and abilities. Like, who's really the top dog?
And also just skills and abilities, your mentality too.
Absolutely.
Because how many times stepping on the court with some of these other teams, even as a coach now, when you see the other team might be, you had Neil, so you're blessed to have Neil, who was 7'1".
Yeah.
But when you have this other team that's got 2 7-footers and big guards, and your tallest guy is 5'6", which a lot of the times happens when these smaller public schools, Ramapo is a little bit bigger of a public school, but smaller public schools run into that all the time.
Yeah.
Where you got the tallest kid on their team's 5'8", the average height in the other team's 6'3". As a coach, how do you prep your team for that? And then as an athlete, as a player, how do you kind of still attack it the same way without the intimidation?
Well, I think that it just comes back to the foundation we've built.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're tough, all right, and you are in great shape, it'll take care of itself. I mean, you just got to battle. That's what it comes down to. And when I was growing up, we played for the Gauchos, and we played with 5 guards. So we played a team called the Atlantic Celtics. They had Dwight Howard and Josh Smith. Wow. Dwight Howard was 6'11", Josh Smith was 6'7". We were all 5'10". And our coach basically told us, I don't care how big they are, play your game. Yeah. Tonight we are supposed to play Bergen Catholic. They are 6'9". They have 3 high-level Division I guards. I told my kids, I don't care. I don't care who they have. Yeah. We're going to go play. We're going to compete. And you know what? If they are better than us, so be it. But we're still going to show up and compete. There's certain instances in life where, the other team may just be better and more talented than you. But there's no excuse for not playing hard and not competing.
Yep.
And that's kind of what we emphasize. 6'10", 6'11", it doesn't matter. Just go play. Just compete. If it just happens to be where he's that much better than us, all right. We move on.
Yeah, he puts his pants on one leg at a time, just like anybody else.
That's it.
Sure.
Now going on to U Penn, what would your fondest memory be from your collegiate career?
U Penn would probably be my first start. I transferred out of U Penn my freshman year. I went to Rutgers for 1 semester. I went back. I wasn't sure if I was going to be eligible for transfer reasons. And the guy ahead of me got hurt, and we were playing Villanova, and I think I had like 270 all-purpose yards that game. And it was the first time I really played since high school. So, I mean, it's obviously a game I'll always remember, but other than that, it's just playing every week with a great group of guys. And that was kind of what I remember from my career. And, you know, some guys I still talk to today.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then in terms of on the coaching level, state sectionals aside, because I think that's a no-brainer answer, what would your fondest memory be as a coach?
Take away the state sectionals, I would say probably beating Don Bosco. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago. We had Joe Hagan, Keith Wetzel, Ryan Curtis, a bunch of football players. And we were the number 1 seed in the county that year. So we beat Don Bosco, and then we beat St. Joe's on the next night. And it kind of put us on the map as a program. And, you know, if anyone saw those guys play, we had one basketball player, really, Matt Lacka, and we were so relentless and so tough. And it kind of propelled us into who we are today.
Yeah.
Is that what sort of started like the whole like tough type of, you know?
No. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I think that's a football thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I didn't know if it was a basketball or football.
I don't know.
I mean, anytime I'm with the team, I usually end every breakdown with, like, you know, nobody's Ramapo tough.
Yeah.
That's what it is, Ramapo.
Maybe Danny got it.
Tough. Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's funny because like you as a coach and even as a player have like that quote unquote tough guy mentality or like plays a tough player. Where do you think you've developed that from? Like, was it from another coach or just you sort of just embodied that yourself?
You know, to be honest with you, growing up, I played for Coach Greg Toll. He was our basketball coach from 3rd to 8th grade. And, you know, it's funny, growing up, no one considered me tough because I was, you know, as really I don't know, want to call it a finesse running back, but I wasn't like a hard nose, like I'm going to barrel out 4 yards a clip. But Coach Toll kind of instilled this toughness in all of us growing up that, you know, I didn't really understand or appreciate it until I probably started coaching. And, you know, that's really where it came from. And, you know, obviously, you guys know my father a little bit. I mean, he's probably the hardest working guy I know.
For sure.
So if you have 2 guys like that in your life, once it clicks, you kind of you see it. You know, I wish I kind of saw it earlier, whereas, you know, maybe I could have done a little more in college or, you know, pushed myself a little harder, you know, because I was always pretty talented, you know, not trying to be, you know, toot my own horn or anything, but I had talent. I just needed to be pushed a little more, and Coach Toll kind of did that. So looking back, I would say he's probably been my biggest influence as a coach, as well as Nunzio Campanelli, who is now at Rutgers.
Yeah.
He kind of had that same mentality when I worked with him.
So at that time, what made you go to Bergen?
I was supposed to go to Seton Hall Prep to play basketball. My neighbor down the street was going to Bergen. So, and Brian Toll was getting held back. And it was Coach Toll's first year at Bosco. So at the time, like, Bosco wasn't really
established or
anything special. Seton Hall Prep turned out to be a little bit too far of a ride, and I didn't really get comfortable there. So the week before school started, my neighbor's like, yeah, just come check out Bergen. So the day I checked out Bergen, Sean Banks was there as well looking. And we both, you know, looked at each other and were like, let's do this. So it was really a basketball decision. Bergen just happened to be the top dog in football at the time. And that's how it happened.
Where was Coach Toll before he went to?
He was at Hackensack.
Yeah, I forgot Hackensack was like legit back then. Do you ever like think like, because Brian Toll being one of your good friends, like it would have been nice maybe to have played with him?
If I knew I was going to play football, I mean, obviously I would have thought things out differently. I had a great experience at Bergen Catholic. I played with some great players. I played with great coaches. I was still a basketball mindset guy, though, you know, and it may have made my decision a little different. But at the same time, I can't really say anything negatively about my high school experience.
Yes. No, that's good at least. You sort of, do you want to say something? That's good talk. My last question. So, who would you think? I don't know if maybe I've asked this already, but is there any coach or person that you consider as someone that's influenced you to who you are today? As there's a person that you are, or as a coach, or even when you were an athlete back in the day.
I would say those three people I just mentioned. Obviously Coach Toll, Coach Nunzio Campanelli. I had an opportunity to work with him before I got a head coaching job at Ramapo, and obviously my father. Those three people have kind of shaped me into who I am today. I'm not a man of many words. I don't kind of talk that much, but I think I work hard and have good family values, and that's really what it comes down to.
Any advice you would give to any future athletes, beginning their, I don't know, would you say youth, high school, college career? What,
a mother asked me this the other day, what advice would you give my son going forward? I would just say enjoy it. I mean, 99% of high school athletes don't go on to college to play, or I don't know what the exact number is, but it's not a good number.
Yeah.
So play as much as you can, play as many sports as you can, and enjoy it, because there's a certain window in your life where you have this opportunity to compete with people and play and meet people, and that's the biggest advice that I can give people is play. Go play and go enjoy it, and put your best foot forward, work as hard as you can, and have fun with it.
I think that's huge. I think that's great advice.
It's amazing.
I'm gonna
use that in the video.
frame that.
Oh, absolutely.
What's that?
No, use that what you just said right there, and I was recording. You noticed?
Oh, nice.
So disinterested. Wait, I had one more last question. I know I just said it. That was my last question. I know you have two young boys.
Mm-hmm.
Planning on coaching them in the near future?
Whatever they want to do. If they want to play, they play. If they want to work for the family business, or what, I'm going to support whatever they do.
That's awesome.
I would obviously love to coach them, but I'm not going to. I've been in coaching at a public school long enough to kind of realize who I want to be as a father and who I don't want to be as a father. And I'm thankful that I've had that experience, and I just want to let my kids kind of be themselves and take whatever path they want to take.
Not trying to live vicariously through them, type of thing.
No,
a lot of parents are nowadays.
No, that's not going to happen. I was my own person. I was my own player, and I'm gonna, if one of my sons turns out to be a great athlete, then God bless. But it's going to be because he wants to be, not because Dad wants him to be. You know what I mean?
That's huge.
Wish we could offer
That's
that.
huge. Yeah, I think we could end it on
I
that.
told him it was going to be 30 minutes. It ended up being 44 minutes. Coach.
You already know never listen to this guy, right?
No, I don't listen to him. It's bad enough when I walk upstairs and he's on the phone with my wife.
That's like a handful of times, okay?
Just so people have, Adam trains his wife. So
yes, Ashley Sandberg.
It's fine.
But Joe Sandberg,
we'll edit that out.
Thank you for coming on, man. Appreciate the talk.
I appreciate you guys.
Appreciate
Thanks for
Coach.
having me.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Cool.